Okay.
Just give 30 seconds to somebody who wants to join.
My connection is quite weak, so I will put off the video. Good luck.
Okay.
Everything is going to be
Okay,
wonderful.
thank you. I think that now, Diana, you can start.
Okay. So welcome everybody to the Smart Health Cases workshop, which is born in the context of the Living Innovation Project. This workshop is organized by Atos and La Caixa Foundation. I am Diana Carbonero from Atos, and together with my colleague Lydia, also from Atos, we will be the facilitators of the workshop. Before starting, I would like to remind you the main objective of the workshop. On the one hand, it is to share experiences and learn about successful examples of smart technologies used to support e-health, healthy living, and preventive health. And on the other hand, to collect evidence of the positive effects of applying responsible innovation methodologies. Today, we have invited 6 use cases champions to talk about their project and exchange information about their approach to RRI and the benefits obtained. The workshop will last around 1 hour, 15-30 minutes. We will first have each project presentation, 5 minutes, and after that, we'll have an open discussion among the use cases champions, which will be facilitated again by Lydia and me. Just as a quick reminder, the audience can make questions via chat. We'll discuss them at the discussion time. So let's start then with the presentations.
Thank you very much, Diana. So unfortunately, our first presenter has excused himself. He cannot attend due to reasons that are out of his control. So we will directly pass the floor to Fernando Fernandez. And I invite him to share his slides. Thank you. The floor is yours. So I'm not sure if you are speaking because we cannot hear you.
Yeah, I've been speaking for a while. No, it's okay. So I was just saying that I wanted to thank you for the invitation to participate in the workshop today. As you say, I'm Fernando Fernandez. I'm one of the founders of the company called Inrobics. Inrobics is a spin-off of Universidad Carlos III of Madrid. And it has been also participated recently by La Caixa Capital Risk. Well, to introduce the motivation of our company, I just wanted to show you some cases so that where we can feel that we at least know people who has been in one of these situations. So, for instance, there are from 3 to 6% of serious birth complications, and that typically require a long rehabilitation after sometimes even years or even for the whole life. 3% of the population suffer of spinal cord injury in life. 25% of the population above 25 years receive one strong stroke, so that will require also some rehabilitation. And from 5 to 8% of the population will have dementia or any some cognitive disease related with the age. So in all these complications that we may have in our lives, very long treatments and rehabilitations are required. And this kind of rehabilitation takes very long. It's very tired for the people. So the engagement of the therapies is very reduced, and typically people even can come into depression. So the goal of aerobics is to propose an innovative rehabilitation solution in which, through a digital health artificial intelligence platform embodied in social robots, we can improve the quality of life of people with functional or neurological diversity. So for you, just to take a small idea about what we do, I just wanted, in this slide, you can see an intelligent robot in the middle, or a humanoid in the middle of the screen. You can see the patient. So what we do typically in these sessions is that the robot is the one that performs and that guides the rehabilitation session. It is able to say the patient to put some postures. So for instance, raise your hands, or cross your arms, things like that. And then we can capture the information of the patient through a 3D sensor, which is here in this table in the top right of the image. So with this idea that we can, we have a robot to interact with the human, and we can perceive how the human is, we can create a lot of different games, a lot of rehabilitation sessions, a lot of different interaction opportunities of the robotic platform with the patient, and that is a very simple but very powerful way to create a new rehabilitation methodologies. But we have not only this robotic platform as a main element, but we are doing, we have developed an APP that is controlled by the therapist. So the therapist can control in all the moment the sessions that he wants to perform, and from a very clinical point of view. Okay, so we have focused a lot in the clinician, so he is able to define how the session will be performed, what are the objectives of the sessions, and so on. So in fact, we typically say that that our main product is an artificial intelligence system, which we call ALMA. That is able to integrate and to control different elements. So the first element that we control with this AI is the interaction agents, in which, if in the case that I will show with you, we have a robot, but we can also have virtual agents or other devices. We can integrate measuring devices like the 3D sensor, but we can integrate other wearables, and we can so everything is integrated under this AI. We can make also applications for the physicians and the patients, and also for patients and relatives if they are at home. So with these ideas, we have created up to now 2 different products. We have a Rehab Clinic, which is the product that we want to develop in the clinics, therapeutical clinics, and in the hospitals. But also we want that the patients can perform a rehabilitation at home that will permit an intensification of the therapies. And for that we have created the Rehab Home product. Both of them with a CE market as medical device. So we have the way to commercialize this product is with software as a service, and also in a robotic as a service business model. So we provide for the hospitals and the therapeutic clinics, we provide a monthly subscription for 350 euros, and also some payments to cover the hardware cost, both the Now robot, which is the robot that we are currently using, and the 3D sensor. And for homes, for the people at home, we provide a B2B2C business model, also in a software as a service approach. I have one of the last screens is the one for the team. So the company has been created by 3 founders, myself, José Carlos González and José Carlos Pulido, which they both were PhD students in Universidad Carlos III de Madrid, and their thesis was mainly oriented to the develop of this project, and we have integrated in the last months clinical staff, both Eltaris and Cristina, and also some business staff like Claudia. Well, I hope I'm in the 5 minutes. I hope you like the small talk, and I will be open to questions later.
Well, thank you very much, Fernando, for this very nice presentation. I will start maybe with a short question. So you said that it is based on artificial intelligence, and I understand that you get some data from the patients or from the users. What kind of data do you get, and are your users aware of this, getting this data and how it comes back to them?
Yeah, of course. I mean, our idea is that all the data that we get mainly from the 3D sensor is available for both the patients and the clinicians through a reporting system. Because one of the important elements that we want to highlight here is that we want also to empower the patients in the rehabilitation. So we want that they can get they have the feeling of their improvement with the use of our tools. So that's why it is very important for us that the patient is able also to see the reports of his own advances while using the system. And it is also very important for therapists, because whenever they go home, the therapists also can follow the exercises that they have done at home. So empowering the patient with the data that we get from the sessions, I think is a main element here.
Okay, so the patients, they know that they are recorded, that the data, that the activities that they do are recorded, and that of course it comes back to them as a benefit, and to also to the whole population and the therapist as a benefit.
Yeah, in fact, to install the app, they have to give the consent for doing all this recording. In fact, given that we work a lot with kids, the process is quite. I mean, it is not that it is complex, but it must be very supervised. So the consent has to be done by the parents. So they even have to send the ID, the identification, and a lot of information to be to cover all the regulation in data protection. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, if anybody else has other questions, I please ask you to put them in the chat, and we will have some times later for answering those questions. So now I will pass the floor to Jordi Ferrer, who will present Camleon. So if you want to share your screen as well, and we'll see if we can hear you. Jordi.
Yes, if someone can allow me to share the screens.
We can hear you, and I think you can take the floor, the screen.
Okay. Yeah, now it works. Perfect.
Wait until we see it. Okay, you can start now. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, everyone, for the invitation as well. Today I'm going to present Camleon. Camleon is a spin-off company originated in the University Rovira i Virgili in Tarragona from the Department of Analytical Chemistry. And basically, our main goal and our main purpose is to redefine how monitoring is developed, right? So today, in order to be frequently monitored, you need to go to still a centralized point. You need to go to a lab. You need to perform the analysis. You need professionals that assist you to do the analysis. You need an equipment that needs to run the sample, and then a professional or a person needs to go over the results, and then you need to go back again to your home, and this requires a lot of time, a lot of procedures that at the end involves a lot of cost into the system, and the system is not thought to perform like daily and frequent monitoring, and our goal is to change that radically. Our approach basically is to develop a newly platform. We are working in a concept that is moving from wearable to embeddable, that basically is to turning mass market products into intelligent platforms. And our main focus is to don't change a person's habit, right? Because we can reduce a lot of barriers. That later on I will show you some results that we got from pilots that we've been conducting early this year. And basically our obsession is to focus on the user experience, right? How we are not changing any habit of a person, and we are embedding technology into a products that already exist and are adapted at mass scale. And then from that, we are leveraging new technologies that are existing nowadays, from different digital technologies, cloud technologies, and computing technologies into our platform that has different layers. And our first product basically is turning a toilet into a seamless monitoring platform. From that, we've been working over the last years very hard, and we are developing a platform that is based on physical products and digital service, very similar than my colleague has been presenting at the very beginning. We are moving into a product as a service model, and we are developing a full integrated platforms that has different elements, right? In our case, we have developed a urinalysis system that is based on different urinalysis cartridges that are embedded into a porcelain into a porcelain products. We develop a partnership with one of the world leading companies of sanitary that is also very fun in terms of how transform a corporation into a new business and so on. That this can be another talk another day. And basically, on top of that, we build different service. And our three main goals of that is how we can establish like truly a remote monitoring on a daily basis, how we are improving the user self-management, so the user can self-care and self-monitor without the need of any professional, and we are reducing the cost here. And thanks to that, we're increasing the adherence of the person because basically doesn't need to change anything, just pee, and then we track all the data. From that, we are starting to introduce our first product. First product it had some challenge, in terms of the design of product engineering, and now our first product that we are launching is a smart urinal that we are calling. The smart urinal is based on three elements. We have a kind of a visualization interface where the user can register and can have immediate feedback while going into the urinal. And then basically we have the urinal, we have an intelligent flashing system that basically detects when it needs to be clean and recalibrate the system. And then we have an embedded cartridge into the platform. No? The conception of the urinal was also very interesting, because it was a kind of collaboration between the corporation and that develops the porcelain and ourselves, because industrializing porcelain at mass scale has a lot of challenges and has different requisites that we were able to manage. And basically the system works passively. We don't need a lot of mechanical engineering behind that that complicates the system. And basically the urinal, we've been our main focus, even though we have a lot of possibilities, we are focusing on hydration, so the monitoring of hydration, that in some target groups, for example, in elderly, in athletes, in children, and there are a lot of research that evidence that more than 55% of the population is chronically dehydrated. And because of business strategy, we started for the sports industry. We have a very well network of partnerships, and in fact, last year we developed a partnership with the French Olympic Committee, that they are organizing the Olympic Games after Tokyo 2021 in Paris 2024. And they are renovating the facilities. We did a partnership with them to start implementing them with them. And in January, we've been running some pilots. So here are some of the key results that we got. So we tracked during a month 50 athletes from different Olympic teams from France and Spain. And basically, besides validating the technology and these aspects, we captured different lengths. The first one, that we increased the awareness almost 96%, because even though they are professionals and they are going to the Olympics, the professionals, they don't have the capacity to test 50 athletes. 6 samples a day is 300 samples. They don't have the capacity to test that, and we increased the awareness because hydration was top of mind thanks to the platform. We increased the other 100% because 83% of the athletes were not able to track on a daily basis hydration, and now basically it wasn't in the routine. And also impacted in terms of behavior change and how we improve also their levels of hydration up to 16% on the all athletes on average. And so it was a very good result that we get, and that's a little bit of a sneak of what we are doing at Camp Leon.
So thank you very much, Jordi. I will use a question from Malcolm Fisk, and maybe also you have the answer with your last image, because different people can use the same toilet. So he's asking how the system know that it is this person, me, using the toilet and not somebody else in the family, for example.
Yeah, so basically we have on the interface, when you go into the toilet, we have a different user identification systems. So for example, when you go to the toilet, just because in the office we have a urinal and we are tracked every day as employees, we have this RFID that is used in many gyms. So when you go to the urinal, you scan the RFID and knows that you are who you are, you know, so it knows that person. Also, we have a passcode system integrated in case you are forgetting the bracelet, and from the system we can know very well the people.
And I suppose that if you don't want to be controlled one day, you can stop the system controlling you.
Yeah, basically, you can use the toilet as well as a normal toilet. So if you don't want to be identified, you don't identify it, and then you can use the toilet as usual, you know. Also, we have the option for public spaces to be used, so you can know the data, but our system doesn't know who the people is tracked. We have the raw data of the people tracked, but there is the option as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's anonymized. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Then we will again have more time later for questions if any of you has some. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now I will pass the floor to Victoria Ramos, and I will this time share my screen with her presentation. Okay, so let me know if you see the presentation.
Yes, I believe it is okay.
Okay, so whenever you want, Victoria, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lydia and Diana. And also thank you very much for your invitations. I am going to speak about Meltic project, but I want to highlight now that Meltic is part of the Orion Open Science project. Orion Open Science is an initiative to open research and innovation and further outstanding knowledge for novel co-creation initiatives to open research in life science and biomedicines in cross-sector collaboration to carry out innovative co-creation initiatives to make research activities in life science, more open, transparent, accessible, relevant, and impactful for research in society. It is through responsibility research and innovation principles of ethics, gender, governance, open access, public engagement, and science education in their policies, practice, and process to organize and to do their research. Also, Orion is funded by the European Commission's Horizons 2020 Research and Innovation Program. Next slide, please. The MELTIC connects with diverse European policy challenges such as the population's health, active agents, aging, education, youth, and climate change, and seeks to identify current and futures needs for citizens. The objectives of MELTIC, that is the ideas melting pot for TIC and health science for citizens in a small community, is a co-creation research, as I say, in these disciplines to improve the quality of life of European citizens in small communities, in this case in Portugal, Italy, Romania, and Spain. MELTIC objectives is to generate through co-creation methodology suitable ideas for research in order to innovate the use of existing public space, art, or even build new ones, and to engage a select small proactive group of stakeholders. Smart, also this project is also taking into account that smart technologies are creating new form of social interactions in new social spatial relations, and promotes interaction and communication between isolated and dispersed communities. As I say, in small communities in these 4 countries. Next slide, please. The co-creation, of course, all of us loved to meet everybody by physical meetings, but these workshops has also offered a great chance to work together a long distance. Of course, saving many flights, saving many times. And we used a co-creation methodology to create suitable ideas, as I said before, to involve users and clients in a creative development process of functional and innovative products. In co-creation products, all groups of the projects are involved and highly influenced through the project lives for planning to implementation and to dissemination. There are a wide variety of stakeholders who are interested and can be involved in research activities. These kind of stakeholders are from government, as in my case, so educators, charities, civil society, patient groups, and public. Local health profiles of parents, patients, doctors, nurses, associations, and politicians are deeply involved. And the process follow these 4 stages. The first of all, process to enjoy, to explore together and join together. A second phase of ideations of the methodology, a phase of organization of inputs, and finally a visualization of the final ideas. Next slide, please. In these workshops, each municipality is looking for their own health-related problems, areas, opportunities, and especially their solutions for their regions. In this, we show the last results. Here can be shown in form of a word cloud with the complete workshops results. This cloud will represent words that are visualized larger, one larger than others, displaying the keywords of this test. We used the text of our maps to discover their respective keywords. Also, the workshops allows us to find new ideas while equating with both the ideas from others and with different, also in close relations with the different sustainable development goals. List of topics covered and list of ideas generated during that meeting, and the results is organized by families of similarities and grouped. The final result is a vademecum of 10 or 100 ideas for research in ICTs, in health and biomedicines, and a model for cooperations in small communities in rural areas. I see here the vademecum with 10 different topics, and inside in each aspect, security, research, feeding care, work habits, and so inside these 10, another 10 sub ideas in each group. Please, next slide. Also, we are now just in developing of a technological proposal to support and encourage socio-spatial interaction of these of citizens in this kind of small communities in rural areas. It's in the first moment of the proposal, we thought about two possibilities of a web platform or perhaps an application, an app. But after these months of work, we are now focused in concrete in an online web platform that is in the future may implement and deploys a set of functionalities that provide comprehensive support to the needs of institutions, functional units, and coordinating centers. One of the moment is management of good practice wise, also organization management, user management, assigning of guides, for instance, for support for the process of assigning special guides, guide views to specific institutions and functional unit, measurements for completion, editing corrections, and follow-up of guides, exploitation is a model for generation of internal reports at various levels, also levels territorial, administrative, institutional, or functional units. And also it's a platform to export and import a possibility of exporting raw guide data. But this is what the last in the last moment of the project and in the last moment of the development of this technological platform, a digital experience platform. And finally, the next slide, please. The outcomes that we are the last moment in this project. I believe in 2 months, finally, at the end of May, this project is finished. It's a short project of only 15 months inside Orion. And I must highlight that all partners are actively involved in communication and dissemination project activities and results to the target audience widely. By means also are used social media channels like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and so. The main responsible is the Instituto de Salud Carlos III, that is also a partner in Orion project, but the main investigator, the leader of the project, that is a eHealth project, and is responsible for ensuring the relevant from posting for all partners. And we have here an institutional web that is used now for also for communication as communication channels for the partners, but also will be for promote all the websites. We are working for promote the final results of this project. So that is the last one. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victoria, for this presentation. Really, this project is in the heart of what we are talking today, the responsible innovation, and all the methodologies that you have used in this project or developed. Maybe a short question is, so all those stakeholders were involved in design activities, in co-creation. Are there also an idea that they are involved once a project is taking place, when there is a deployment of one of those ideas getting to the end and being developed?
We tried to involve a wide range of stakeholders, because we believe that this is the key. The key part of the co-creation process is to involve so wide kind of stakeholder as possible. Mm-hmm. The first idea was to carry out physical workshops not only in these all together, but also in each main partner of each country. But the pros and cons of this pandemic situation is we are also having a deep research in new possibility of development, and also to involve difference to increase the participation on other profiles of partners, as initially was not the people from the university. But then now we are an important part of the partner that belong to the university, because it's important for us. The main important is the co-creation to use the possibility of different stakeholders, not only institutional, but also in the real world of these small communities.
Absolutely. Okay, so then thank you very much, Victoria. We may have other questions after all the presentations. So now I will pass the floor to Carmen, and I will share again my screen. So let me see now how I do this. I think this is the presentation, and I hope that you, yes.
Yeah. There
Are you seeing the right screen now?
Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Can just at the presentation mode, maybe? Because
sorry, then I'm not on the right. Let me. Okay. Here. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. And thank you very much for inviting me to share the results of this project in this workshop this nice afternoon today. So what I'm going to present is how this project started, what have we developed, and what are our first or preliminary results. The name of the project is this long name that you have on the screen, but the short version of project is EvaLabs, Eval for evaluation, apps for mobile apps, of course. So next slide, please. So yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, there it is. So everything started around 2014 that I was attending a workshop about ICT health, and somebody was presenting a solution for managing the phobia to fly, to fly by plane for sure. And so it looked really amazing, but somebody in the audience asked, okay, that's very nice, but how do you know that this works? So have you validated this solution or not? And the person presenting the solution said, oh, it has got several number of downloads. At that moment, that one of my research topics was health technology assessment, I was thinking, wow, the only indicator we've got to say if the solution is working or not is the number of downloads of an app. I think something else has to be done. So next slide, please. So I started to think how or what could we do to separate the rain from the chaff, so to identify which interventions, which mobile health intervention were really giving added value. But at the same time, I was also, or we were also trying to identify which intervention were the good ones for specific target audience. So not all the apps that can be good apps are good for everybody. So depending on the final user, things might be different. So next, please. Then we started a journey. That was around 2016 with a group of people, most of us worried about health technology assessment, others just about digital health issues, others about methodological issues. Different people from different countries, from different organizations, we were working together and we were able to start to give some light in the eHealth assessment topic. And so we were able to publish a first global framework. Next slide, please. So in this framework, one of the things that was obvious is that new tools, new methodology were needed and had to be developed, and a lot of research were needed in terms of methodological aspects about evaluation, assessment, and validation of eHealth in general terms interventions. So that's why we started to think of specific projects with specific tools. And that was 2017 when the EvaLabs project was born. EvaLabs project consists of developing a tool to validate and assess efficacy, safety, and effectiveness of eHealth apps whose main goal is to manage and prevent overweight and obesity. So we started to define the project, with a team formed by people from different disciplines, from different organizations, and then receiving funding for it. Next slide, please. So the project started from scratch somehow. So we started to do a systematic review, trying to identify which trials had been done up to that moment in terms of validating effectiveness and security of health interventions about management of overweight and obesity. I'm talking about 2017, 2018. We were not looking for the best interventions. We were looking for tools. We were looking for methodologies. So we were not screening about the quality of the trials or about the sample size of the trials, which were some of the most important and relevant issues that we were able to find. So in this systematic review, we identified not more than 20 different trials and not a lot of different tools or final outcomes. But it was the starting point. So next slide, please. The second step was based on that systematic review and also on the framework that I presented before. We had a list of a lot of different criteria and dimensions that we considered interesting to be assessed when assessing an app. But this was not realistic. So we decided to reach consensus through a Delphi process with different healthcare professionals and patients. So finally, after 2 rounds of the Delphi project, of the Delphi process, we gathered 56 criteria that were the ones chosen and introduced in the final tool, and they were divided into the 7 dimensions that you have on the screen. Next slide, please. So we knew what to assess, but the thing was, okay, how are we going to do that? So we decided to do our first steps in co-creation process. And so we started to work in different workshops with developers, with clinicians, nutritionists, healthcare professionals in general terms, methodologists, and final users of the final tool, which was going to be an app to assess apps. So that was a very interesting experience and helped us to understand the process in which most of these apps have been followed in order to be developed. So next, please. So finally, we were able to develop this Evalabs app, which is now available in the marketplaces in iOS and Google Play, but it's a research tool. So you need a code to use it, and it's not for the general public yet. So first thing we did is with the first versions of this app, we just piloted with 30 people. They were 30 patients. I mean, people going to an endocrinologist or to a nutritionist because they had a real clinical problem with obesity. So we offered them to participate in piloting the app, and they did it. And so we were able to identify the points that could be improved and the points of the app that were successful enough. So we did several versions of the app. And finally, next, please. We were able to do the final test of this app. That started just 1 year ago in the middle of the lockdown, which was for the project somehow positive because it was quite easy to find enough volunteers to test the app. So what we did, it was just through the social networks and through the campus at UOC, at the Open University of Catalonia, we just made a new in order to look for volunteers. So a group of 260 different volunteers contact us, and they were able to participate in the final test, and so most of them did it. And I would say, I think 160 something finalized the final test. When I say this is because, what do I mean by finalizing? Because what we asked to the people was first to download an app, one of the ones that we have previously chosen, to use it during at least 2 weeks. And after these 2 weeks, we asked the people to download the Evalabs app and then give feedback according to the different dimensions and criteria to the app that they have been using. And finally, we asked again also a third step that was just giving feedback about the app, the Evolabs app itself in a survey, in an online survey. So I can say that out of the 260 volunteers, 163 finalized all the process. And we are now analyzing this data, and what we can see is that some of the domains are more difficult to be answered by people, mostly the ones about privacy and anonymization, for instance, and also about clinical effectiveness. But others, like usability or user experience, they are mostly answered by the volunteers. Among the volunteers, there were healthcare professionals, or I would say people who with an expertise in health or healthcare management, people with an expertise in technology, and people with no expertise. So we are doing now also a clustered analysis now to see if there is some differences, but we have not yet finished. So next, please, and that's the last one. So what's going to happen in the future? So the project itself stops here. But we've learned a lot about it. We are thinking of, we have a nice tool and we want it to be flexible. So to use a similar tool to assess different apps, not the ones whose main aim is overweight and obesity, but maybe other aspects such as mental health, that we are just thinking of it now. And we are also thinking of how we can really transfer this knowledge to the general population so that this is a tool that everybody can use, never mind if it's a research project or not. So I think that's all that I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carmen. I think it's a very interesting project. It's like a project within a project. So the assessment of the apps, it's very, maybe a first question is, how long did the co-creation process took?
Yeah, this was like a couple of months, but we had several meetings. Like I don't know exactly the number of meetings, but maybe like 5 different meetings with different people participating in these meetings. They were not always the same people in all the meetings.
And how many, more or less, of those end users did you involve in this phase?
Yeah, this is a difficult question. It's not easy, because what do you mean by end user? I mean, the question is that maybe this is a weakness of the project, that the final user can be somebody who just wants to lose weight or has got a clinical problem, but also the clinician and the epidemiologist. So having all these people together, yeah, I could say half of the people that participate in the workshops, in the co-creation workshops, were final users.
In a way, we are all final users. We all want to evaluate the apps. So I understand your... Okay. So thank you very much, Carmen. We will come back after with more questions, maybe from the audience.
Thank you.
I will now pass the floor. I will stop sharing first, and I will pass the floor to Ezequiel Hidalgo. I understand that you want to share the slides yourself, so I will also give you...
I thought you were going to say, to show the slides, and I was going to control them. I can show them.
Yes.
Yes. Whatever is best for you.
No, please go on. Try. If there is an issue, then I will share them.
One sec. Can you see it on full screen or now?
We can see, yes, now we can see perfectly. So please go on. Thank you.
First of all, thanks for this opportunity. It's great to hear. It's a great opportunity to share our journey. My name is Ezequiel Hidalgo. I'm a physical therapy and rehabilitation doctor from Hospital Ramón y Cajal in Madrid, and our project is Cerebral, an affordable virtual neurological rehabilitation platform. And it has been great to hear all these success stories from the other teams. But if I was thinking that the thing that I believe has been key to our project is not success, it's actually failure. I know that failure sucks, but failings also mean that you are trying something different, trying something new. And I believe that accepting failure is the first step to know that there's something that needs to be done about a problem. And that's how this project started, with my failure. I, as a doctor, was failing to my stroke patients because I know the treatment they should be getting. You can go to any of the guidelines, like Spanish guideline, the European guideline for stroke rehabilitation. The Canadian one is actually really accurate on this issue, because it says, we know what the gold standard of stroke rehabilitation is. The patients need 4 to 5 hours a day, 6 to 7 hours a day, a week, with a multidisciplinary team. But what we can actually provide them is like 40 minutes to 1 hour a day, 2-3 days a week, and for less time and without all the key personnel. For example, my hospital, although it has a stroke care unit, doesn't have a neuropsychologist for treating patients with cognitive disorders. So in the end, we are giving them 10% of the rehabilitation that we know they actually need. And that happens in a hospital in the capital of my country. And it's even worse in smaller towns around my country, or in developing countries, they don't have access to any of this treatment. And that made me realize that sometimes as doctors, we aim to study and to create new and better ways to improve what is already, like to make a better gold standard, instead of attacking the most damaging point, that is that it's not accessible enough. Not making it better, but making it available for everyone. And that's how this project started. I'm kind of a bit of a nerd, and I loved virtual reality. And I thought that maybe we could use virtual reality to bring and make this treatment available to everyone. So I started using the night shifts during the 24-hour shifts and the ER, and learn how to code and start building small apps in which, instead of trying to create something new, something from scratch, what I did is pick the therapies that have already proven on the scientific literature that work on these patients, and from all of those, select those that I could especially safely and effectively adapt to a virtual reality environment. For example, some of these therapies are action observation, which is the medical term for monkey see, monkey do. When we watch someone do something and we are watching, when putting our attention to it, like our brain in the background is like trying to recreate how I would do that movement. It's some of this process is some of the key that how we learn by watching someone doing something. Or for example, a motor imagery is when you don't actually perform a movement, but imagine how that movement would look, how that movement would feel. And some of the supplementary motor cortex that activates when we do those movements also activates when we imagine the movement. So it helps reestablish the neuronal pathways that have been damaged in stroke. And also mirror therapy, that it's many people have heard about it, from less about the stroke and more about people who have lost a limb. Using a mirror and seeing your limb movement creates a positive feedback that encourages the brain to repair the area that has been damaged. And what we did is take all these kinds of therapies that have already proven that work in a traditional sense. Some of them have already proved that work in a virtual environment, and bring them all together, but keeping our aim not in making a better treatment, which is also we aim to do, but mostly keeping it accessible to everyone. And although you can see it, I don't think it's actually working. Maybe you can see it better now. This is what the patient sees. To start the treatment, you just have to put two white gloves and a dark piece of cloth in front of the table, because what we aim to create is when he puts the headset on and looks around him, everything in the background has changed, but those hands he sees in the video feels that they are their hands. So we can understand they can watch me, because that's a video. I am like the virtual therapist. Watch me perform the movement. I explain them how to imagine and practice with a limb, with a not impaired limb, the movement they're going to do, and learn how to imagine not only because when we think about imagining the movement, we mostly think about the visual part, but the one that has the biggest impact on regaining the function of the limb is the sensation. For example, the proprioception, how we feel that our face is clenched, for example, when we are not looking at it. And we also include other kinds of therapies, but instead of trying to find something to fit in our system, what we took is from all the pieces that were available, those that naturally fit and adapted to their system. And the best thing is that you don't need the biggest barrier for any kind of technology in any hospital, especially in those which don't have access to a lot of means, is keeping all the barriers, the cost barriers down. So, for example, with just a smartphone and Google Cardboard, that it's a cardboard headset that you can buy for less than €1, you can transform any kind of a smartphone into a virtual reality headset and start working with this. All these therapies have been built from the ground up to be able to be given to a patient without any kind of supervision. All the instructions and all the things the patient needs to perform, they can do it just by listening to the virtual therapy and in a natural setting. For example, it would be better if we could ask the patient to move the damaged limb, but it is something that the patient cannot do safely if he's not under supervision of a physical therapist. So any kind of therapy that required that, we didn't use, and we kept focusing in those that we knew that you could use safely from the comfort of your home. And the idea is that, for example, in my hospital, I cannot afford to give 4 more hours of rehabilitation because I don't have 4 times the physical therapist to work with these patients. But now, the same physical therapist that gave 1 hour of rehabilitation can then put the headset on the patient and give him another hour of rehabilitation without increasing his workload. And that's how we started our journey. Things that we realized so far is that I think that maybe it's my idea as a doctor, because I always was worried about, does the treatment work? Is that treatment safe? Is the treatment effective? But bringing something from the hospital to the actual market, there are a lot of things that we had to take into account. Most of all, we have been working the last year in the user experience. We have created a program that manages the videos, that allows the therapist to see exactly what the patient is watching, that provides the therapist in an orderly way, so the patient can have a progression through a branching tree of difficulty to adapt to any kind of patient. We have been working on the regulatory matters and trying to get the Class 1 CE marking. And all this has been possible through the help of FIPSE, Kaizen Pulse, and Chip2B. That is an acceleration program in Barcelona that focuses on social entrepreneurs. I don't know if I'm saying it right. The thing is that what we're trying to do is, our long shot is creating a Netflix of rehabilitation, that one day anyone with a smartphone has access to all the rehabilitation they need for their stroke from the comfort of their home in a really accessible way. And that's what we've been working on. And so far, we have developed a system that can help patients with upper limb deficits, and we are starting to work with private clinics here in Madrid to validate our system. So thanks a lot for this opportunity, and I'm eager to hear any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Ezequiel. I think it's incredible what we can do with the technology that exists already. And also your project is really about responsibility, and not only healing and not only safety, but also the economic side. So this available to everybody, to the society. Maybe a first question is, you mentioned in your let's say participation with others, the therapists and the professionals, but I didn't hear really that you mentioned people, I mean, end users involved in the design and in your, I mean, there are in the long tail there are, because they have been through those therapies.
Yeah.
But in this case,
yes, there are a main stakeholder, and it's really a pity that I didn't mention them. The thing is, this slide, I don't know if I'm still sharing the screen.
yes.
It's actually about one of those patients, because what really made me realize, one of the things that I was worried about is the treatment actually interesting? Because there were a lot of studies with the Wii, with the gaming console, the Wii, used in the rehabilitation setting. And one that really struck me after all those studies was one that just asked the patients, do you like the Wii so much that would you like to use the Wii, Wii and traditional care, or just traditional care? And although many elderly people like the Wii, in the end, most of them didn't want to use it for the rehabilitation and wanted to have the standard care. So one of the first things I ran is a test with all the patients, asking them, do you actually like this treatment? And I believe that virtual reality is amazing for this patient, because it's like a window. I like this image because it's how they feel the first time they are standing on, for example, a virtual beach, or they're watching a sunset or seeing a concert. Because in the end, when I went to try the new treatments, they were like, yeah, the treatment's kind of cool, but can you give me, like, I'm parachuting or something? Or all the people were like, no, I want to see a sunset in the beach. They love the therapy, less the therapy itself, but the possibilities that virtual reality provided them. And for example, there was a kid, he was 16 years old. He had, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's an illness that affects the motor cortex, but it's inflammatory disease. And in the end, he had lost the ability to make accurate movements with the fingers. So he lost the ability to play with the PlayStation because he couldn't handle playing with a controller. And when he has told me that, after finishing the trial, I told him, maybe I think I have a game that you can control just by watching. And it was a simple game, just like Martians coming from the screen, and he just had to look and shoot them. And he said, I love it. Maybe I want to try it again someday. And I was like, yeah, whenever. If I'm here, I can always let you have play a few games. And because I was doing this after I finished the night shift at the hospital, I spent like another week that I didn't have a 24-hour shift. And when I came the next week, they told me that boy had been spending like 3 or 4 hours every evening waiting there, because he didn't know when was the next time that I was going to be there. And he really wanted to play video games again. And that made me realize that that part was also as important for them as the treatment itself. Mm-hmm. And that's how we partnered with a friend. He's from Russia, and he had a lot of 360 videos he have recorded with his family. So every single therapy ends with a 3 to 4 minute experience that maybe it's walking through a mountain, sailing in a yacht, watching a sunset at the beach, different kind of activities with the nexus in common is that is something that shows them the life that is awaiting them after their recovery. It's what is waiting for them outside the hospital, and give them a little taste of everything that they're going to enjoy after their rehabilitation ends. And that I believe that's one of the most important parts we have been worrying about, because a treatment that the patient doesn't want to use is a wasted treatment. And
motivation is key in this. Okay, so thank you very much, Ezequiel. Maybe you can stop sharing your screen so that we can see the different videos, and also we can start maybe with a few questions if people have them. Diana, I don't know if there were questions in the chat.
There's one question from Philip, which is for VReal for Ezequiel. What training, if any, is required?
All our therapies were designed so the patient just needs to have an average cognitive function, to listen, just the ability to listen to the questions and follow the simple orders that we are asking. So because in the end we want to be able to provide this treatment to patients that cannot go to the hospital, all the treatments need to be designed in a way that they could be provided from someone in their community, or maybe just their family members. So right now, all the therapies we have so far, you just need a family member to put the headset on, to put the gloves, the piece of cloth, and then the patient just have to watch the video. The best way to do this if the first 2 sessions are with a physical therapy that helps explain the patient how the therapy works, because it is everybody knows about the effect, the placebo effect, but there's something called the nocebo effect. That is, if the patient think that this is not going to work, it's never going to work, no matter if you give them the perfect medication for their. So they need to understand, because sometimes we the patients, especially older ones, are like, if I want to learn how to move my hand, I need to move my hand, and explaining them that there are actually ways to repair their hand movement without actually moving their hand. It is really important for them to understand. So sometimes having a physical therapy explaining this part of the process to them, so they can continue at home, it's a great way of doing it. And so far we have been using it like a way to extend the amount of treatment we can give these patients. So they have the usual care, and it's the therapist that says, okay, now we're going to have the virtual reality care. They put the headset, and they can have, like, you can have 4 patients with a headset without increasing the workload from our physical therapists.
Okay, are there other questions?
Yes,
before we start?
There's another question. It says, it is expected that your patients are more open and embracing new technologies. However, I am wondering how young people are reacted to this kind of treatment.
That's also an amazing question. I was scared because I read, as I was starting to code the first therapy apps, that's when I read the study about the Wii. And I always thought that the Wii was something that was kind of cool with elderly patients, but it actually wasn't. So we ran a small test with 21 patients that were using and trying the therapy. And out of those 21, it was not a statistically accurate sample, because only half of them were above 80 years old, because I run the study in a center that focuses on patients that have a really high, for example, chances of recovery. But out of these 22 patients, 21 wanted to include the treatment on their daily treatment regime. And the only one that didn't said that it was because it was still not validated. But as soon as it was validated, he would like to include it. I believe it's because it's not about technology in general. It's about virtual reality. It has an incredible wow factor. The first time, no matter the age, that the patient puts the glasses on and feels like she's in the middle of on the beach or at top of a mountaintop, or gets a little bit dizzy because he feels like he's flying through the clouds. That is something that is appealing to all the ages. But it is true that sometimes elderly people need more than human factors, knowing that there's someone next to them providing that part of the treatment. And that's why we created the program that allows the therapists to give therapy at the same time they have the headset on, because that provides like a personal and a feedback from the therapist, and knowing that there's someone human there, that is something that sometimes these patients require. Young patients. Young patients. I'm sorry, I read it wrong. And young patients love it because they're more interested about the gaming side of all this stuff. And the biggest issue we have is that they found we had a lot of young patients recently, and they found the activities we have provided them were like too soft. They wanted to do things like paragliding, bungee jumping, and going to concerts. We only had a small piano concert on a boat, and they were like, this is not our kind of jam. And we want to expand our experience range to include different things like that. And they're more open to use new kinds of technology, and they're the ones that give the best feedback about how they want to try it. And mostly it's because I believe most of the time the people that contact us to want to try the therapy, it's not the patients itself, it's sometimes their daughters and sons, but most of the time their granddaughters and their grandsons that are the ones that are online, that are researching, and it's kind of heartbreaking because sometimes it's people like a few days ago, a girl from Mexico contacted us and said, I really want my nana doesn't have access to the treatment, and she really wanted to have the treatment. And I told her, I'm glad you found us. I cannot help you right now because I don't have a way to give my treatment in Mexico, but they are really open to try new technologies.
Okay, this I think leads very well to the first question I wanted to ask the panel. So all of you, if you wish to put your camera and I will go one by one, which was what is the biggest obstacle you faced in your project or while commercializing the project? And if there are many obstacles, which is most related to the ethical aspect or the responsible innovation aspect? So maybe now we can pass and go back and give the floor maybe to Carmen first.
Yeah, can you repeat the question about the ethical aspect? Yeah.
So what is the biggest obstacle did you face in your project, in your opinion, and the one that, if there are many obstacles, the one that would be related to responsible innovation or to ethical aspects, to I don't know, lack of anticipating a risk that may impact negatively the patient or the environment, or?
Yeah, we were inviting people to use these apps, which are commercial apps. The first thing is this one. So we were inviting them to download these apps. And so that means that the data of the people were going to these companies. Mm-hmm. And of course, we did not have any other way to do it. So that was one of the things that happened. The other things that happened was that when downloading one of these commercial apps, if your smartphone was in language which was not Spanish or English, so for instance in Catalan, the app was downloaded in English. So that was like a barrier for final users some of the times, and they didn't know how to change the language. So I mean, some issues or some barriers when we want to reach the end user, seem that, let's say that in internet there are no fences, that we have our own barriers, and language is one of these barriers. So this also was somehow difficult. And then, as it is a research project, to convince the iOS and Google Play was easier, but with iOS was more difficult in order to have all the permissions, in order to upload the app and all these kind of aspects, which were more really explaining what was going to happen than a real stopper, in fact. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. Fernando, what is your view on that? We cannot hear
Fernando,
you.
we can't hear you.
Sorry, I always forget to disconnect the micro. So I think for us, two main elements that we have needed to deal with are the process to make the software clinically certified, which is a long project, and I think it's gonna be even worse in the next years. And the other issue we talked a little bit about that before is data protection. So for overall, for us, that we need to upload all the information to the cloud. You need to establish very strong communication elements and get all the agreements with all the people. So those are two elements that you have to deal with, but I mean, they are not unsolvable. It's just that it requires time, it requires technology, it requires legal advice. It takes time, but at the end you can do that. I mean, we are doing that. So.
Good. Okay, thank you, Fernando. Victoria.
Thank you. From our side is the main barrier maybe in rural areas or small communities is not a clear difference between social aspect, health aspect, youth, elderly, and so on. So it is the good side of this is that also if there are an institutional facilitator for the mayor or some kind of institution in this local part may help to give a wide solution for all parts of the stakeholders involved, because for instance the wide band of ages, the ages of from young to middle age to elderly, to give access to some help for technological management, but physical management or digital divide between in some access in some small community that perhaps the internet access is not easy, and sometimes they need authority facilitator, like in years before was the priest or in the pharmacy, the doctor, and now sometimes with the visit of the grandchildren to the grandfather in summer, maybe not authority, but maybe a good help for to keep all the possibilities of solutions for them, because sometimes in these small communities the people may be old, elder, and in the other side, if is not is a barrier to have an institutional facilitator to help to keep the people in this community and to easy the work on to give value of some classic, not classical, but traditional works or craft that maybe may give help to give economical success in these small communities. So the technological, but with only private initiative is not easy to give a wide opportunity for 2 or 3 small rural areas, but the main problem is not different in Portugal as in Romania or in Spain.
Okay, thank you very much. Jordi, what is the main obstacle?
Yeah.
Yeah, for us, the main obstacle, or one of the main obstacles, is the product itself. I mean, we are launching a urinal. A urinal, it's mainly for males, and one of the things that we are developing as well is a female urinal for tracking purposes, right? More on the middle to long term, we want to launch the smart toilet. The smart toilet has more complicated challenge because you have to for accurate measurements, you need to separate well the liquids and the solids, and this is a little bit challenging. So so that's one of the main barriers that we address, is how to develop a product that can be in the short term gender equality, right? And then the second one is regarding the data as well. You know, we are developing a product that is very it has a lot of appetite for big multinational companies in terms of information and potential recommendations. And we are having a lot of engagement from big multinational companies, from the food and beverage industry especially. And we want to be very transparent with our end user, right? About what we do with this data. First as a company, and then once we collect this data, what we do with the data with other entities, right? That's the second challenge that we are addressing. Also in terms of avoiding potential hacking of the data. Also, we are doing product and software, so all our computing power is in the cloud, so we don't have any computing in the hardware. In terms of, imagine if we put the urinal in somewhere and someone is installing the property and all the algorithms, so we communicate all the raw data and everything is encrypted to the cloud. And also we've been very carefully with the data management.
Okay, thank you very much. I think now we are getting closer to the end, so I will make a round of asking you, what is your wish, your main wish at this point of your project? So Jordi, let's start with you, as you had the microphone.
Okay. Yeah, basically our wish is just to launch a product to the market, to get traction, and that this is widely adopted, and that's our wish, you know.
Okay, let's go to Ezequiel. You are silent?
Yes. Our wish is exactly the same, to start getting traction. I believe that our next barrier is actually getting all the physical therapy clinics to reopen, because many of them are still closed due to COVID-19. And we want to start, because the more patients that are using our treatment, the more feedback we get, and the more info we find about how to improve our platform and how to make it more appealing for the patients, their families, and also the clinics that are going to be providing the treatment.
Okay, thank you. Victoria, what is your wish?
My wish could be to have the possibility to develop a technological option, application or solution, but that could not don't be aggressive or intrusive to the people in this small community, but also to that helps to keep the population, a wide band of different kind of population in these smart communities, and not to give the empty rural areas that we see now. No?
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Fernando.
Well, so from my point of view, my wish, our project has a very important social aspect. So from the pilots that we have performed, it's amazing when you see the kids and playing with the robot and enjoying with the robot, and making a strong efforts to improve and to make the therapy. So that is really beautiful. So I think from our point of view, my wish is to see the platform playing and enjoying with kids in as many hospitals and rehabilitation clinics as possible. So that would be amazing. Yeah.
Okay, and then the last, Carmen.
Yeah, my wish is, thanks to our project or similar projects, to push a little bit more in terms of what sorry, I have the video switch off. So to push a little bit more in the use of the health apps. So, I mean, people, healthcare professionals sometimes are reluctant to prescribe apps because they don't trust on them. and sometimes even patients the same, but from the patient perspective. So if these kind of projects help to improve the quality and at the same time the trust on these health apps, maybe we can have a tool that can be very useful in order to improve the management of our own health.
Okay, thank you very much. So now I would like, I think we had exemplary projects that are really representative of responsible innovation. They are focusing on human, they are human-centered, person-centered, they are co-created, they are developed and validated with persons. They are for the benefit of humanity, society, economy, and we have not talked a little much about environment, but we are here focusing on smart health. So this is, I think, the center of the topic. So I think I would like to thank you all very much. I would like to thank my colleagues Diana and Eva for their support, and the VU University for hosting the webinar or the workshop, how we want to call it. And that's all from my side. Good luck with the rest of your projects.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.